let me start by asking you about the name B27. Where does that name come from, or what's it
So
mean?
I get asked that quite a bit actually. Only this morning, one of the girls actually, that's she's actually with us probably 2 years now, and she just asked me, B27, where does that name come from? So, in 20, obviously 2019, we started planning opening the cafe or coffee offering in the bus stop shop. But our first little boy was born in 2019 as well. His name is Bobby Lee,
Oh well,
and he was born the 27th of April, so that's where B27 came from.
deadly.
Uh,
I
I'm
love
sure
it.
now in another year or two when Tommy, we have another little man now, Tommy is his name, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he's going to think now in another couple of years.
You need
When I
an
have
outfit,
to do,
another change.
yeah, I'll have to do something for Tommy. Yeah, yeah.
Deadly. In terms of I'm always interested in the kind of the coffee shop, coffee, cafe category. It seems like everybody that opens up a restaurant or a food business, they kind of open up a cafe. Like it's such a crowded market.
Yeah.
Um, what do you guys do differently than a lot of the other places would do?
Um, I suppose the biggest thing, and probably advice I would have got very early on from from my mum and dad really, who were in their own bakery, was just focus on what we can do, and not be worrying about what someone else over the road, or you know wherever they may be, are doing. Like, if we
Yeah,
just do what we can do to the best of our ability, and just focus on what we can bring probably to the market. At the time in Enniscorthy, there was a couple of cafes, coffee shops or whatever, but there was no one, like, specialty coffee hadn't really got as far as Enniscorthy, I suppose. Since then there has been a few different you know specialty coffee options that have opened up, and it's great to see. Like, it's one thing I probably always would say is, like, the more shoe shops in the town, the more people who come to the town to buy shoes.
yeah,
Like, so, it's good to have, like, different options, and it's something that I myself will be interested in. Whenever I'm out and about or whatever in other areas, I like going and getting a different coffee out somewhere else and seeing what origin they're
yeah, yeah,
using, or what something I like. It's something I have an interest in. So, um, yeah, that's what
yeah.
we try to and focus
Look,
on.
looking at it from afar without knowing your business like kind of intimately, your venture, your latest venture, which was the drive-through
Yeah,
storage container, like it looked like two-story storage container. That certainly is kind of novel, and like I know in America, drive-through coffee is quite big, but it's not that common here to see it. Obviously, outside of McDonald's and handful of
yeah,
other places. How
yeah.
did that whole thing come about? Where did that idea come from? Or
Um, so I suppose it's like anything. There's a risk involved, but it was supposed to take away some of that risk, was to do it in a container that if it didn't work, we
Mhm.
can probably move
Yeah,
it. And space wise, we felt that one container on its own on the ground is probably not enough space wise. So we just looked at it and thought, from a visual impact, to put one on top of the other, put a bit of signage on it. We have, like, the second one we probably learned from our mistakes on the first one as well, in that the second container has, like, the staff toilet and all contained in itself
yeah,
upstairs, whereas the first one is like it's a separate cubicle away from the building.
yeah,
Just layout wise and all, we probably learned on the second one as well. And yeah, so as I'm going a long way of answering your question, the bottom line was, it was probably a safety net to do it in a container that we could move. Probably another thing that would have helped us as well is, Paula, my wife, she's an architect, so
right,
she she kind of was able to, knew the ins and outs of the
yeah,
planning.
yeah, I was going to ask you about the
she would have
planning.
been, yeah, she would have been, you know, would have been all down to her now, the plan permission coming through
Yeah,
for the one in Euros. It would have been all her, that her area
yeah,
of expertise, I suppose. She's involved in the business anyway. She does all the, I suppose, a lot of the HR and all the, that
yeah,
admin work and all the,
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of the office work. So it's probably good to have, you know,
That
um,
brains
yeah, yeah,
in the business.
exactly. Yeah, it just allows me probably to focus on some other areas.
Yeah. What
Um,
would you say your strengths are? What in the business? What do you focus on mainly?
so like my year, like what I focus number one on is what our expenditure. So anything that could cost the business money, I look after. That is, I do all the ordering for everywhere. Now the lads would do the order and send it to me,
Yeah,
and then I actually put through the order. So then just allows me the chance to notice that if maybe someone that was on yesterday, different member of the team maybe ordered the same thing then today that actually was ordered yesterday,
yeah, yeah.
just
You'd pick
at
up on it.
least, yeah, well, I'm not saying I pick up on it the whole time, but
Yeah,
at least it's the buck stops at me. Then it's my fault if it comes in twice and we don't need it. Then I look after the rotas, the hours of shift hours, that kind of thing. It's like it's a balancing act, I suppose. So we try work, say, this week's rota off of last week's turnover. Now I know that's not ideal,
yeah,
but it just allows some sort of control on it.
yeah, yeah,
We've actually we're onboarding at the moment with Nori, so I'm hoping that will probably improve that then and probably free up a bit of time as well
yeah.
for myself to look at other areas.
I've tried to get Connor, the owner of Nari, on the podcast for a long time now. He doesn't answer my messages, so
As in a,
I'm absolutely fascinated by that. What they're doing there. Can you tell me from your own perspective, like what I suppose what conversations you had, or what you're expecting to get from Nari?
um, I suppose their big selling point is that they they're going to cut down on our waste,
Right.
which is number one, and then reduce like labor hours. I suppose that's spent on the like of say your rosters, your ordering, inventory, um, that kind of area. So I suppose there are two of your main costs are labor and waste. And if it can cut down a little bit on both of them, I feel it will add a significant amount to our business
Yeah.
anyway. And that's what we're hoping to get out of
But
it.
sure, even if they can cut them down by a tiny, even a percent, either or per week, it'll pay itself back,
Yeah,
tenfold. Like
exactly. Like if we could cut our waste by probably 50%,
yeah,
that would be like a 2% increase in our
yeah,
overall
yeah,
um turnover, or 2% saving on our
yeah,
overall turnover, I should say.
yeah, yeah,
So that's, it's hopefully it's probably my first step into the AI
AI
world, but
world. Yeah,
yeah, but it's like it seems to be the future, and that's where a lot of, not just our business, but that's where a lot of, or not just like food business or hospitality business, but that's where a lot of the world is going now. And I suppose like anything, you're trying to be a step ahead rather than a step
yeah, yeah.
behind and following.
Last one for you, Connor. You've had like really impressive growth in 3 or 4 years since you started the business to multiple locations. What is the future plan? But where do you see, long term? Where do you want to see the business?
Um, Probably don't really have like a too long term of a plan. Like you never know what's going to throw up in an hour's time, never mind in 2 years' time. But I suppose I suppose I would like that, you know, our partnership with Nori now will allow probably a little bit more growth as well around the area of particularly convenience and um, maybe the like drive-through model, takeaway model. I think like if we get like a good foundation through Nori, that it's easier to scale it then probably. So I would ideally like to see another couple of locations. But I wouldn't be going to sit here and say definitely going to open another 2 locations in the next 6 months or anything like that. It would be just it has to be the right area, the right I have to get a right feel for it as well. And that would be like what myself and Paula like would be if we feel something is right, we'll do it, and if it's not, then we won't just do it for the sake of doing it either.
Spot on.
That's really
spot on. Keeping the cards close to the chest for now.
I'd love to have a more interesting answer for you, but
that's okay. No, that's the reality of it, isn't it? Really, you can sit here and say I want to take over the world, but that's not really feasible.
No, exactly. Especially, there's different like things to take into consideration too, like rent and the rates as like it's not one or the other, it's a combined. Some areas like the rates are just unbelievable, like whereas other areas the rent is cheap. The rates are, it's kind of you put the two together and see does it work out as a percentage of what you feel you could turn over in that area, or the amount of customers that will walk by the door or drive past the gate or whatever. So it's kind of good few things to take into consideration. And probably do things maybe. I probably take numbers into consideration too much maybe sometimes, but it's like, I suppose just one of them, it's like how I kind of work out if something is worthwhile, like even for the drive-throughs, like I look at how many probably cars drive by the gate then, and I have my own target of a percentage of them that I think I can get to driving. And that's just, I suppose, the reality of it.
Yeah, I remember, like, I think that's the kind of McDonald's, at least they say that's the kind of McDonald's basic model, where when they look at new location, they just stand outside and they count. It's all about footfall. But, how true that I don't know, but I do know that Bewley's, when they do the location, certainly back in the day, when they'd open up a new location, they would literally stand outside the shop and they would count the number of people in set 15-minute periods, and they reckoned if they could take 1% of them, and they'd work the numbers out that way. It was all just footfall, but that was a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Connor, thanks so much for that. I really appreciate it. It was great to chat to you. If your mate from Nori there, if you get chatting, tell him I need to get him on the podcast. It'll be good to chat to him all about what he's doing.
Yeah. No, listen, thanks very much for that, Evan. It's great to talk to you, and it's brilliant what you're doing as well, Larry. Fair play.